Hey, everybody. Welcome to the November 2024 State of the Market. I am here with Al. Al, how you
Yeah,
doing?
I'm good. How you doing, William?
Good. Happy to see you again, brother.
Likewise, looking forward to looking at some soccer card auctions. The highlight of my Thursday night.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hope I didn't say that too loud, so Ilda heard me.
Yeah. She's like hers too. She gets rid of you for a little bit.
Probably. I'm, I'm not gonna lie. I think you hit that one on the head. I'll console myself.
It's my buddy that actually goes to the national with me every time. Like I just bought the tickets just went on sale for national on Monday, and so I bought our tickets. And his wife is the one who sends me the Venmo to pay for the tickets. And every time in the notes, it's like, "Thank you for taking him away from me for a little bit." Like that's the note. I mean, they're very much that couple that likes to give each other shit, like on social media and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny every time. It's like, thank you for getting him out of my hair for a week. So yeah. Oh, just while we're on that topic a little bit is we found out that the SoCo is happening and they have a location. So the Soccer Expo. Last year it was probably 20 minutes away from the venue, 20 to 30 minutes away from the venue. Maybe I'm misremembering.
Yeah, I'd say 20, 15, 20. It wasn't terrible.
Okay, yeah, so this time it's at the Chicago soccer fields, which is like an indoor facility. I think there's like 8 fields or something like that, or 8 different pitches. And but it's like a half hour out from Rosemont. So
Ooh, a full half an hour.
yeah, like the drive. I just checked on like ways to see like how long of a drive. So I don't know if when I looked it was during rush hour or anything like that, but it's a decent distance away.
So what's your strategy going to be?
So I ended up making a reservation by the actual or closer to the SoCo than the National. I figure I can just drive. Pardon me?
In between both of them?
Well, I think it's closer to the SoCo. It's the one that they had reserved a bank of rooms.
Okay.
So I figure driving in during the day to the National, like we don't ever need to get there like right when it opens or anything. So it's like, we feel like maybe it's better to be closer to where we're going to be later in the evening. So, and there's a lot of the hotels are already fully booked near the National. So like, it just made it easier, and I'll have my car there anyway. So I figure, what does it really, you're going to have to pick one or the other. And, so that's just the way we went. I mean, I'm planning to be there till Sunday. So like this year, so I won't be like leaving, Saturday and not participating at the SoCo on Saturday night. So
yeah, I think we did what did we do? We did Alex and I think we came in on Thursday, right? Was that right?
Yeah.
And then we left on Sunday. We did Saturday night by ourselves.
Yeah. So I did the first night, and then you did you did all of them.
I did all of them. There's 3 nights.
Yeah. And I just
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but just Alex and I did Saturday by ourselves.
Yeah. So this year we'll be doing if you're staying, we'll do them all. Oh man, somebody's kicking you in the groin right away. What's up, Al?
Al B, he's just that way.
Yeah.
That
must be some Australian humor. But yeah, so if you guys are thinking about doing the SoCo, just kind of make sure that you're aware of where it is relative to the National, because it is a distance away. So I imagine they will be doing busing again. Not that that's the most efficient way, but you know, or if you have a car there, it might be a lot easier, or it would be a lot easier. But yeah, so let's see what else we have. A fair bit to talk about this week or month. Did anything catch your? Did you notice anything this month, or does it kind of feel like status quo? Not much of a shift.
I would say I didn't notice a tremendous amount. I mean, I think there were some decent prices on some rare pre-war stuff that you know, either I won or others won, and I was close. But I don't think there was a tremendous amount that kind of shook my thoughts of the market, of us kind of, you know, likely. I mean, it's impossible to talk about the market when there's, you know, so many different cards, but
Sure.
we've probably kind of seen the bottom, and we've been bouncing off the bottom, you know, here in 2024, and getting some momentum in some things. So that's generally my thought. But you know, again, you have to look at it on a card by card, and sometimes even a grade by grade within the card. So yeah, so I'd say some underlying strength, but not all surprising, right? If you look at the stock market, all-time high, look at crypto, you know. So I think there's you know, we haven't participated like that in the bounce back, right? So it's you know, on a relative value perspective, I still like this space a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like and we've talked about it before, where we kind of like we're always like 3 to 6 months behind like other markets like that are, you know, like more financial markets. So like crypto, especially, like I think that's where we will see the initial surge, right? Because people are quicker to react in something like that. Maybe they cashed out, you know, with some of their gains and things like that, and they're going to put it into other places. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, but it kind of feels like there could be some tailwinds over the course of the next season, and we'll see where we are in like March, April. LB wants to know if you'll be doing a 2025 predictions video.
I think I will. I have to kind of consolidate my thoughts on that, which right now are more fuzzy. I think I had a lot more conviction over the last couple of years, so I need to kind of firm up my beliefs, or my predictions. They're not really beliefs, but they're usually based on some level of you know, data and trends. So I've been thinking about a few. I only have a few that I'm kind of convinced of right now, and I try to get it, you know, kind of tied in with the year. I don't think I'll have 14 this year. It'll probably be, you know, somewhere in the 8 to 10 range, but yeah, that's certainly in the plans.
Right on. All right, well, why don't we hop into the Golden Elite? There wasn't a ton of vintage in that, but there's probably some things worth talking about. So let's see here.
I really like that card, the soul of the game cards. I just didn't like that particular piece of shoe, but it just seemed off color with the thing. But pretty good results on a ton of modern cards. Honestly.
Yeah. I mean, this Mourinho for 25,000. You know, like it's like holy shit. Like that surprised me, but not being aware of, you know, of like what those things go for, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would have guessed that even if it was 2,000, I would have said that was a lot. So, you know, but again, I don't know what I'm looking at here. I know Topps Dynasty is like this ultra super premium, but in the end, it's just fucking cardboard. So
yeah, it is pretty sweet though. Like if you're a big fan or whatever, I mean, and there can't be a ton of his stuff out there anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Here's a PSA 4.5 Alifa for 32,000. That was kind of like what twos were going for at the peak. So ish, right? So if you were patient, you probably end up with a much high whatever. I mean, I'm sure that it's probably you jumped probably 40 percentile in the overall grade, right? So maybe even more from a 2 to a 4.5. So if you're patient and we're able to throw the money at this one, that's I feel like a solid decision.
And this is more or less the fours. I think we're in the 30s in the summer, in the low 30s, high 20s. So it's basically a flattish performance. This card maintained its value much longer for kind of grade adjusted, and then it softened a bit. I think that the lower grades have softened a tremendous amount.
Yeah.
I think these mid grades, and we haven't seen a high grade one. I wonder what those would go. I think here you may start to see a bifurcation in the market, meaning that the high grades still bring in really good prices because we just haven't seen any of those, whereas we've seen a lot available on kind of the lower end. So that's kind of my hypothesis.
Yeah.
But we'll only get to test that hypothesis when a 6, 7, or 8 or 9 comes to market.
I feel like this is one of the higher grades that we've seen in a while, though.
Yeah.
So it kind of surprises me a little bit that it didn't do maybe a little bit better just in that regard. But I mean, I guess really what's the difference between a 3.5 or a 4 and a 4.5 at the end of the day? I mean, they're all kind of in that same, half a standard deviation or whatever,
Yeah,
so.
I mean, they're don't get me wrong. It puts you, like you said, in a much higher percentile because so many of them are A's to 2s. But it's not. You're not going to get the elite high dollar investor,
Right?
Right. It's still a collector. It's still a collector grade card.
Yeah.
I think you'll start to get, maybe some investors at a 6, definitely at a 7, 8, and 9, and those people are just built different.
Totally. Yep. Okay. Here's a 9.5 BIS for 20,
and that's like well below what 9s are going for. PSA 9s. It's just, again, the epic fall of the Beckett.
Yep, and that's 3.95s and a 9. Here's a 9 Monty Gum, which is actually a really high grade.
Incredibly high grade, right?
Which pulling 13,000 kind of shows that. It's kind of a one of those cards that some people love and some people don't, and so you're limited in who's going to buy it, but that's a pretty solid price for, and you're not getting anything higher than that, really. I don't think so. And if you're looking to get early Pele, at a decent price, that actually is still probably one of the lower priced ones for something that is going to be grading that way.
Yeah, for a PSA 9, sure. Tons of
it's crazy, man.
Messi, Ronaldo's. I mean, really good.
Like, I think that this is like the Eminence is just as cool. Like, I love the black background with the signature on it.
As long as those aren't smeared autographs, they're awesome.
They did those for like ice hockey a long time ago, and with like a silver paint pen, and some of them just turned out so shitty because like you say, they just smudge across, or they didn't get the paint, they
didn't shake it to get the right thickness of the paint. I mean, a lot of them look shitty, but some of them just look fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, when you get a clean one, it's phenomenal.
Yeah. But I mean, it's crazy. The Lamine Yamal, I know we don't really talk about it on this channel, and even some of the Hollands on some of these new stuff are just like, there's so many of these Lamine Yamal 1/1s.
Like here's 1/1, here's 1/1.
There's probably 500 1/1s, and they're all trading for like 5 to 50 grand each. Look at,
Yeah.
I'm a Barca fan. I hope the kid continues to shine for his entire career. But I mean, when you get in at this price point, to me, there's like so much more downside
Yeah,
than
I
there
mean,
is
it's
up.
just the prospecting, right? Because when one hits, like if you hit 1 out of 10 of those, I mean, it might be profitable. You know what I mean? Like, granted, you have to pick the right 10 and hope for the best. And because if it ends up a Messi, you know, I mean, unlikely, of course, but like,
Well, okay, so let's just take this. So Lamine Yamal, what's his best case? He becomes the next Iniesta.
I feel like it's different because there's more eyes on the, like, I think the collecting now is more you know, with the 101s and things like that weren't available. I think that people really value those as those players start to get better. And like Iniesta's not going to pull that just because you got base cards, right? Like, I mean, that's
Okay,
essentially
fine, but let's just say, remember, I picked him because I'm in Barca, whatever,
sure.
and he's got and he just had a slew of PSA 10 stickers graded, right? Remember that the whole like drama about,
Yep.
hey, the find, and then there's like 27. So there's 27 PSA 10s, you know, of his rookie sticker, and there's probably like 200. Well, certainly numbered cards less than 10. There's at least 1,000.
Oh, I would agree with that. Yeah.
That's not scientific, but let's just say it's probably more like 2,000 less than 10. And a lot of these are selling for like $5,000. We're giving shit like, oh my god, the Iniesta sticker may be too expensive, you know, at like, you know, $800 for one of 27 because the population exploded or whatever. And it's just that's why when I calibrate like that, I'm just like, wow, you know, I mean, if he
Yeah.
had a career, like, okay, he's got a Euro under his belt, great. Let's say Spain wins the World Cup, great. Let's say Barcelona does, you know, wins how many Champions League titles? 4 or 5. So then you go back and say, wow, he had a fantastic, amazing, elite level career. What happens to all those cards? I'm not sure they can still even, you know, double or triple from $5,000 to like 15,000 when you've got, and then guess what? Next year there's also going to be 300 one-of-ones. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why just the math, the cumulative math for me.
I almost,
I own one Lamine Yamal card. You know, I got it for like $10, and that's my card for him, right? So because I just can't. The math, I just can't.
I think that's always going to be the disconnect between vintage collectors and modern collectors, right? Like, I mean, it's just a different game, and there's like the volatility of modern is the attractiveness and to many, and it's the detracting nature to many. So like it's like I would agree with all of your points. I tend to agree that that's why I would prefer the Iniesta PSA 10, but and it's hard for me to like take the side of the modern because it's just not how I'm wired. But like I wouldn't be stunned if that same card sells for 50 if he has 2 great years, just because that's what people do. You know, it's like Mike Trout cards. It's like you know, like just all of that.
Which, by the way, as an Angel fan, I don't own any. Like I own the very low value Mike Trout cards too, right? So I you know, best player ever to play for a team. I just can't I can't spend that money
Right.
on those cards,
Yep,
right?
totally.
Anyway, it's this wasn't meant to be like, oh, modern sucks, because actually I
No.
would like to buy some of this stuff. I just can't. I'm never competitive. There's always people that are way, way, way higher.
Yep, I agree. All right, here we have a PSA 10 Messi for just barely over 4,000 now. Those were over 20 at some point, right?
Yeah, I think this is a more common one, right? This is the 89.
Yeah.
So I think those, yeah. I mean, I think they it's a little bit down, but not tremendously. Like those, I think were fives. I think the other ones, the portrait, were more in tens. But I mean, this is my point. We're not going to go through these, but look at all these modern cars selling for thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah, the 10 Mbappe for 2,000. I mean, those were going crazy.
Those, I think, were 15 grand or something at some point.
I mean, but his start.
Real
Madrid has not
looking good.
Yeah, it almost makes you wonder if it's the French league.
Now he did perform well in the World Cup, but
totally.
But other people can put together a few good tournaments here and there, and he never looked that great in the Euros.
I mean, sadly, this is going to be his, what people, the narrative around him until he proves otherwise. So,
yeah.
I mean, is it just going to be like any other guy that ends up at Madrid that doesn't succeed and, a footnote in history? But we'll see. Hopefully not.
I mean, the one thing that's nearly guaranteed, not that a ton of people care, is he will definitely be the all-time leading scorer, World Cup scorer. So he has that. Now, there'll be lots of asterisks around that about the number of games, all that.
That's just how it works, right? It's going to keep changing, though. There's going to be more matches coming up, and it's just those things always get broken in every sport. It's all the extra matches they play. It's like in college football right now, they're talking about this running back potentially breaking Barry Sanders' record. And he's playing like 4 or 5 more games.
Yeah. Four more games, right? I mean, it's like it just doesn't. Yeah. So
there's always, they say breaking the record, and it's like, yeah, let's look at a per game basis and see if that's the true judgment. But that doesn't get the headlines and the marketing that the sports want. They want that constant headline. So
yeah, like breaking the record, the new all that type of stuff. So yeah, it's like the 1,000-yard runner. I mean, is this so like what it used to be versus what it is now? And still, few people make it, which makes me laugh.
Yeah, it used to be like 80 yards a game, and now you need like 58 yards a game or something.
Yeah, it's like the the Eric Dickersons and Barry Sanders were just like crazy.
Yeah.
Earl Campbell's and wrong football, I guess we're talking about.
Yeah. Here. We've just talked about all the other sports today.
But I mean, so much modern in this. There are pages and pages of this. So that was actually interesting. That one on the right was a full album that had allegedly the Cruyff. It's a Power Rex album, but there was no picture of the Cruyff in the listing, which I thought was so interesting. So you were just taking a massive blind risk on an album that allegedly had a Cruyff.
Yeah. I have one of those albums, and like I wouldn't probably sell it for $1,400.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. And just so you know, I did have one and took it out, and here is here's the result of my latest one. Right? So you take that type of risk when you buy it. Now, I would look at 1,400. I think is a good risk calibrated.
Sure.
For the album, but I thought that was interesting that it sold that high. I thought it was going to go a lot lower because there's no picture of the key card.
Yeah, that's really weird. I didn't even know that. All right, I think we've made it through the Elite. So I guess we'll get to. There's a few Goldin weeklies that are at least something we can look at real quick. This is the ones that ended at the beginning of November 7th. I think there was a vintage one I wanted to pull up. Oh yeah, here's a VAT a Vav Pele. It's a 4 miscut for under $1,000, which seems. I know that we've seen a few more of these released over the past year or two.
How bad is the miscut?
I mean, the bottoms, you don't really have a bottom, but it's pretty straight. It's just, these all have miscuts for the most part, right?
Yeah, I'd say at least 80. I may go as high as 90.
Yeah, let me click on this because this is the only thing on this. Maybe. I don't know what's happening.
We bring you live entertainment.
Yeah.
Once a month.
How's this work? Anyway.
Well, we can trust you. On that one,
Yeah.
it was terribly miscut, but still, $1,000 for a Vav Pele, to me, huge deal. I think it's an underrated rookie card. I actually like that salmon color on it. Definitely from the World Cup in 58. So I personally like that card a lot.
Yep. Yeah, let's get off that wonky page. Okay, this is the 3 items that were in the fall Goldin 100. So I just wanted to bring this up. The Champions League semifinal first leg Messi goes for $344,000. 2 goals he scored in this, so that's pretty monstrous price. Oh, I thought I was sharing that. Am I sharing it?
No.
That's my computer must be acting up. Sorry, everyone. Okay.
That's insane.
Yeah, it just seems like very that's a big price. And then look at the difference between the Messi versus the Ronaldo for the.
Yeah, because those are the out of 5, right?
Yeah. Now, granted, this is his base versus this is an insert, so that is part of it, I imagine.
When everything's to 5, I don't see why that matters that much, but whatever. There's only 5 of them one way or another, but I do understand that narrative. Those. I mean, all of these are. I'd say this is big ass prices for these things.
Yeah, I mean, granted, and we've mentioned this with the 2014. We think that that's always going to have carry a level of premium and interest because of it being kind of that first premium set. But yeah, it seems like big prices. I mean, that jersey though, it seems like Goldin's been selling a lot more game used recently, and they had a whole game used auction this past month as well that I'll share with but I don't know how many people collect game used, but it is part of the hobby. All right. Okay. This was from a few weeks ago. Here's a 5 Ronaldo for $2,200.
Like honestly, if you're trying to get it, if you're getting into the soccer space and you want to get a GOAT, that to me feels like a deal.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about what those were selling for before, and then this is the reason I brought this up because here's a 4 that went for $1,300, so it's at 10% of what the 9 went for.
Yeah,
I think that was pretty much the reason I had that. And then here is the game used sale. And then the highest one here is 27,000 versus that one that went for 344. It's you want a 101 or you want the game worn jersey? But yeah, I don't know. As we've discussed before, I mean, the game worn of more recent players, I'd probably feel better buying that stuff because I would imagine that there's a better way of determining the legitimacy versus like some of the stuff that we had talked about that was like Di Stefano and things like that. It's a little bit harder to buy into some of the provenance of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've always been interested in game use, but I've always just been too much of a skeptic to get into it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested in things that I think I feel good about, and then other things I only would take a flyer on if it's, and I like the visual of what it would be like. Before I bought the Negro League bats, that was really tough. I talked to the guys like John Traub, who wrote the book on authenticating bats, and I went and did a tremendous amount of research before, and found, okay, these were matched to the factory records, that it, and they knew the batch numbers, and then there's side writing on the side, so there's like, you start to get this preponderance of evidence, but at some point, none of us were there.
Right.
And I think on the more recent stuff, for like, I think Major League Baseball did the best job of this about 20 years ago. They started to be at the events and certify the items right there and put their hologram on things. And so they did the best job, and soccer is still doesn't even have that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's still kind of the wild, wild west. And if you don't feel comfortable out in the wild, then just don't play there. And I don't usually play there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I bought there's a local pub by me it's the Arsenal where they show all the Arsenal matches for Detroit, and so I'm buddies with the owners, and I had, at one of the auctions from the sale room, there was like a game worn jersey of why am I blanking? He was a French striker for Arsenal.
Henri?
No, after him. He played on the national team for a long time, even up till recently. Anyway, I got it super cheap, and whoever won it was just stoked. They did it as like a giveaway for the fans or whatever.
The fans, the customers, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I like. I mean, if you look at some of them, not on these that you should, because those were high value, but Goldin seems to have a lot of these. I look at it as hey, if this was just a jersey, forget about the game used or game issues by itself, would I pay a couple $100? And that's kind of where my brain goes. And sometimes you can win stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it may be game used, maybe not be, but you know what? The jersey's still okay.
Giroux. Yeah, Olivier Giroux. So, all right, let's go to the Fanatics Premier Auction. And so basically what sold in November was this Titulares PSA 6 for 11,000, 10.8. It feels like I mean, I don't know how good. I didn't like look at this, but like just based on the grade, that seems like a pretty. I'd be happy as a buyer at that.
Yeah,
price.
I think for a grade adjusted price, absolutely. I appeal on this one. I just don't love the centering.
Yeah,
and I've seen others that are lower grade that have better centering. But I think grade adjusted, it's a very good value for the importance of the sticker.
Yeah, back looks pretty clean.
And what a gap between this 9.5 BGS Messi rookie and the other one for 20,000.
Yeah, and it looks like these are all 9.5s. So like just that half grade on centering, or
freaking crazy, right?
changes it $13,000.
$12,000 for a half
Yeah.
grade on centering by some random guy who may had a lunch and was feeling nice and happy when he did this one, and not so much before he was hangry before.
Yeah.
And but it's just crazy to me.
Yep. Here's Yamal 101, another one.
Another one.
And here's a PSA 10 Mia Hamm for 5,600. So good to see. Those are tough to get good grades in, just because it's kind of flimsy paper, very almost paper. Pretty, it's cardboard but paper.
Super light cardboard. Yep.
And I always question these 10s just because they all have those serrated edges or whatever you want to call them, and a lot of times these were like basically laser cut or something, and you don't even see those frayed edges. So how can it be a 10?
Yeah, it's very much like the Pele, aquarellas, where it's like, what's the difference between these high grades? Because those edges, the fuzzy edges are, there. I didn't look at this one carefully, but it's hard for me to pay super premiums for these types of cards when I can't really tell the difference.
Oh yeah. So here you can see the edges, it's it's pretty even, but at the end of the day, what makes that any different than the other ones? But yeah.
But it's 1 of 7, obviously massively important player for women's soccer, and particularly U.S. soccer and U.S. women's soccer. So
yep. But nice to see that women's soccer getting some love there. And,
absolutely.
And so that's pretty much it for the month of November from the Fanatics premier auction. I always want to say premium auction.
I thought wasn't there another card on that? If you go back, I thought there was something else that I wanted to comment on.
Oh, those other ones were from October.
Oh, okay.
Yep. All right, so here's some of the weeklies also. These Force of goals are all seem to be selling pretty highly. It's interesting because there's nobody has a checklist, right? Isn't that part of, we had the conversation on the Discord recently about those, and I think Matt was asking for a list of any that anybody had.
Yeah,
which is interesting. You would think there would at least be that information somewhere.
Yeah, and I just sent in, I don't know, 10 of these to get graded in one of the bulks. They'll be 1s to 2s, I think, most of them.
Yeah.
This is a very high, it's rare to get high grades, which is one of the reasons why I always was such a fan of the Baggios and the Maldinis. But yeah, so that's 720 was a price that was way more than I thought it was going to be, but obviously it's the highest graded.
Yeah.
I can be totally wrong here, but I'd rather be the seller of this particular one than the buyer. But I do love, it's one of my favorite sets just from a design. It's cardboard, the size, the checklist is impressive.
Yeah. All right. We have a 42 Glorietta Jam Moreno.
I thought that was low.
Yeah, it feels low. I think that, I just don't think he's got that oomph that the collecting majority is interested in yet.
Maybe that's it. I honestly, I was like, wow. First Argentina kit, one of his first cards. The Lays, is kind of the first card that we see graded in any significant quantities. Allegedly, there could be cards before that. I don't have them, haven't seen them, but they, then there's this gap from 36
Yeah.
to 41, 42, and this is his first one. Attractive sticker.
Yep.
And I'm a little shocked. Actually, I thought this would easily, like, if you were to ask me which one would I pick, this or the card next to it, I would pick this like all day long. But that's me, and clearly, I didn't get either one of these, but I would certainly, seeing that after the fact, I'm like, wow, that felt low. But
yeah,
again,
yeah. I mean, I feel like that's definitely one that when we look back in a decade, we're gonna be like, holy shit,
I feel like that too. Yeah.
All right. 4.5 Velita back. Eusebio for 600. I mean, that feels light. Like I'd rather be the buyer.
Yeah, and this had really good eye appeal. It was sharp. Centering's was good.
Pretty solid. Yeah.
Yeah, the Velita backs are much harder than the blank back. So this is another one where I kind of rather be the buyer here. Just like the Cruyff 74. I mean, I love that sticker, and a 6 doesn't seem like a high grade, but for whatever reason, the 74 seem tougher.
Yeah. And the price of this is pretty much kind of stuck right around this price. There was definitely a bottom where they were going for like about 400 because I paid attention to the 6 in general because I have one. And
so you have a 6?
Yeah.
And they have been tracking around 400. So this is a
I kind of like I bought mine at 6, and then it kind of it dipped down to like 4-ish, and now it's on its way back up a little bit. So
okay, so you bought yours at 6, it dropped down to 4.
I want to say that was like 2 years ago.
Okay, yeah, so it's again kind of this this bounce back. I'm looking at through a lot of my 74s right here, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 6. Oh yeah, look at what do you got? I got 6.
Well, there you go.
Right there. So, yeah, I mean, it just another 6, 6. So, yeah, I think there's the rare 7, 7, 7s. Okay, so I got a couple 8s, but I think that in general, a 6 is a solid grade for that. I haven't pulled out the pop, but I feel like it's a solid grade.
Yeah, I want to say it's on the top like 20% or 25%.
Right, which I don't think you can say for most other World Cup sticker years. I can be wrong on this, but my feeling is the threshold for the 74s are generally lower.
Yeah. Seems like a pretty low price for a 1. $384
bucks too. The back must have some.
It's got a little. It looks like there might be a little staining and a little bit of maybe like erased pen mark. So yeah, I mean, I guess you could think it's like a 1 MK maybe. So yeah, let's move on to another. There wasn't a lot that sold for a lot that week. For some reason, Jim Thorpe's in the soccer section.
He could do it all.
He could do it all. Here's the record cut in half without Garincha, getting a 9. There's 7 of them, 3,500. PSA 6 George Best for 2,300. Feels like those have definitely dropped. I mean, there's a decent amount getting released. I mean, but it's not like crazy. I don't feel like it's saturated, but it must be for the best rookie at this point in time. And maybe, our thoughts of it being one of the most highly sought after and collected, maybe it's not quite as true. There's just other things that people are drawn to. I don't know. Just feels like what we view as like one of the bigger cards just isn't getting the bids like I would expect it to. But you know, I think that there's just a more broad knowledge base within the collecting community, and maybe that's it. People are just figuring out more what they're interested in, and not necessarily going with the seven wonders kind of thing. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a tough one because I still believe it's absolutely elite. It was one of the ones that most of the early graded ones were the better conditioned ones.
Yeah.
And then we had a little bit of an influx of additional grades around the kind of the mid grades. But in general, I was just pulling up the pop report as we were talking. We've got, see, 89 plus 16. So you got 105 graded rookie cards right now of his. And there are 2 9s. There are 14, including the 8 and 8.5s. There are 17 7 7.5s, and then there's 15 6 6.5s. When you kind of add up all of that juice, you actually get to a 6 being pretty close to the 50th percentile.
Yeah.
So when you look at it from that perspective, a 6 at the 50th percentile selling for 2,300, that's not terrible for anyone. Like what would be the Cruyff Palarex equivalent?
Oh, I think that would be substantially more in
Like
the 50th percentile.
50th percentile? Let me I'll check while we're talking.
I mean, unless it's like a 2, because if it's a 2, then I mean that there's other reasons why that would be lower.
Yeah, that's true. That there's the 50th percentile. I'm guessing is somewhere around a 2, and that's probably why. What's the number on that card? 301. Yeah, so 301. How many graded? Okay, so they have 88 graded, so a little fewer. And it would be, so you've got, what's this, 1s and 2s, authentic 1 and 2. So you've got, do we get 40 here? Yeah. So the average, the 50th percentile would be a 2.
Yeah. So
now he also has other rookies.
Yeah.
Right. So the 50th percentile would be a 2, 2.5. And so, best 50th percentile versus Cruyff 50th percentile, slightly lower pop. So in the end, when I looked at it like this, I didn't feel like it was terrible. My first reaction was, wow, that's super low. Right. Wasn't that your first reaction as well when you saw that?
Even with that data, I still feel like it's a little low, but I could just be anchored to the higher prices. So like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the difference is I don't think best collecting wise is at the level of Cruyff. So
True.
like,
and that's so what
so that kind of balances it out too. So maybe I'm talking myself into being a little bit more receptive of this price.
So if you were bidding, where would you be happy to buy this one at?
Well, I mean, I feel like I'd be happy at that price, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, my first reaction was I'd be happy at that price. And if I got it for less than $2,000, I'd be kind of ecstatic for a 6.
Yeah. But I think that's one of the things I really struggle with is anchoring to previous prices. and sometimes I'm less reactive to bargains, or sometimes maybe slightly overpaying because I'm still anchored to a different price. Like if it's coming, down in price, like I think that's probably one of the things I'm weakest at when it comes to buying items. So I probably don't get some of the bargains I could, or I don't get some cards that are on the upswing because I'm still anchored at the lower price, or I'm buying something, I'm overpaying slightly on the downswings. So that's probably one thing I really need to be a little bit more aware of when I'm buying things.
All fair.
All right, here's a 4 titulares for 2,000. Well, we had the 6 that was at 11,000. So, I mean, centering's not that different.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little worse settling,
Yeah.
Centering, but it's not good. Neither one of these was good.
Yeah. Which one would you rather at its price?
I mean, honestly, I passed on both of them because the centering does bother me on both. I think I'd probably go with the 6. 6 is a super hard grade in these.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I was just buying the slab and I didn't see the card and I could get a PSA 4 for $2,000, I'd feel really good about that.
Yeah. Here's a PSA 2 Palarex for 1,800. So I guess relative to the best, there are other considerations like the condition. People are way less excited about buying a 2 versus a 6.
Yeah, but it is basically 50th percentile.
Yep, exactly.
As well, right? So I feel like
of the 2, which would you rather have?
I would take the 6 best, just because I feel like most of the really good condition ones, and we can be wrong here, have been graded, and the incremental ones that are coming in at 3s and 4s.
Yeah.
And I'd never be super concerned about trying to get a PSA 2 Palarex.
Yeah. You would think that over the course of time, let's say, because it's between the 30th and 50th percentile is what the 6 is. So maybe it's not going to get to the 40th to the 60th percentile. It's going to move the other way. It's going to be potentially the 25th to the 45th percentile, because there's going to be more low grades, like you're saying. So
yeah,
there's room to grow in that regard. Yeah,
it's more likely to move up. I think if we would have looked at the best rookie at a 6 5 years ago,
it would have been like a 20th percentile.
It would have been at the bottom.
Yeah,
it would have been, because there was 30 cards graded.
Yeah,
most of them were high grade. It would have been at the bottom. Today it's at half. I bet over time it ends up being, top third. It has the potential to be.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I would pick that card. And then I think, while it's true that most of the Cruyffs are going to be removed, so they're going to be 2s at the high end, and most will be 1s, 1.5s, A's. I feel like there's an opportunity here. I mean, most of them are going to be in that grade realm, so you can go out and get one at any time.
Yep. All right. Here's a 57 OMB Garincha for 1,000. I like that set.
I like that set too.
Here's a 1 Cruyff. I don't know how the back is, but for $900.
I think that was bad, that back, but it's a...
Yeah, there's some paper loss on the back.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think... I think that's close to a post-boom low.
Yeah, I would think so. All right, here's the Erico, the Christmas tree version. for 750. What were your expectations when it's graded a 1.5 MK?
Yeah, I can't remember the MK part of this one. If it was just I can't remember. I mean, I
So
think
there's some writing up here with
so
A's.
it's like pencil.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, I couldn't remember like what it is. I mean, in general, I think the crystals are rarer than the regular version, so it deserves a premium. Personally, I just don't love things that have writing on them. That's just kind of a pet peeve of mine. So while I don't actually have the Christmas version of the Arico, um, I I was not bidding this strong because of the 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 writing. I just couldn't remember where it was. So that was kind of my thoughts on it. It's not. I think a lot of people may believe this to be a rookie. I'm glad they didn't put rookie in the title.
Yeah.
He does have a 34 Por La Noblesse, which is his rookie.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty solid price personally. I was thinking like, oh, maybe I'll get this for $400 or $500,
Yeah,
and
if you would have asked me, I would have bet 500 was going to be where we topped out, and Seco 750. Definitely some interest in the market for him, which there should be. He's the all-time leading scorer in the Argentine league, not farmer league. I mean, an important developmental global league.
Yeah, and then here's the one for 720, so more than double the other one. But it definitely looks better.
Yeah.
Remember when these were just going insane? The Cantonas.
Yeah.
Feels like it's starting to. I don't even know. Like honestly, like I don't really look at those that often, but it feels like that's low.
I mean, it's certainly low from where they were in the past, but I mean, on a relative basis, it's an 80 sticker and a 4.
Yeah.
It still seems pretty high. I got the Nanina up there in a PSA 7 hand cut.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. It's tough to get any of those, to be honest.
Yeah, it was good. And the other one I had was like a 3 or something. So
okay, that's a huge upgrade.
Yeah.
All right, and then the last
price on the Telmo Sarda. We don't normally get into his cards. It's kind of the level that we talk about.
Yeah,
but that was I mean, most of those come in 1 to 2s, and they're like $100 to $200. See a 4 go for nearly 500. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, especially when they're also selling the one, or there's also grading the dual. And so this is kind of like that Pele record where it's kind of cut from from the other half of it. So
now this one bothers me a little less being cut.
No, I agree with that.
But I and it also fits in a standard holder.
Yeah.
Which that's cool. And then that Alcantara right next to it sold for nearly 400, which is cool.
Yeah, I think the heavy lifting is the 1920 on there.
Yeah.
Probably. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right.
Yeah, me too.
and that's my concern, right? Like, but I think that's just be careful when you're buying stuff that's dated from Spain. I'm not sure that PSA is getting that 100% correct. But they could, and I could just be uninformed, which is very possible. All right, here's there's been some chatter about this recently in the Discord. The Puck Van Heel going for 1,000. You don't see too many of his for sale at all. And I know that this is like many people have said they'd only seen 3 or 4 copies total. And I think one of the members said that they have 2 of them. So they've obviously been looking, right? And
yeah, it's a really cool card, great condition despite the grade. I lost this to Scott, so
yep.
But it's nice to see some of these players. I mean, you're talking about a guy who, is a Dutch great, but not super well known.
Yeah.
And had whatever, had some of the most caps for the Dutch team, but is not a goal scorer. So he had like 40 or 50 goals in his career. Like, so it's not like a player that everyone's rushing out to say, oh my God, one of the unknown crazy, players. A very, very important, player for the Dutch team, but that Dutch team didn't do a whole hell of a lot. So it is kind of nice to see some recognition for some of these players, but there's no way I would put him in the same league as like a Mesa or like a Piola or even even many of the other like British starts like a Dixie Dean or stuff like that. So you know I think probably Scott and I both had him on our list. So we
well,
we
and
bid
that's
hard.
the thing, right? Like you're gonna have collectors who are collecting a broad scope of players, and some of these players there's not many options for, and if you want to get something, you have to strike, and that's likely what happened here. And I know it wasn't just you two either. There was there were definitely others that had their eye on it, and so. Yeah, I mean, it's just good to see that there is that interest that, when there's a few people interested, you can pull some decent prices.
Yeah, for truly rare, and in this case, this is, to my knowledge, his first issue. So that's why. And my next closest card of him was probably 1930, if I had to
Yeah.
guess, like a Dutch issue from 1930, maybe 31. So, and it's a similar story to the next card right here, the Pottinger.
Yeah.
I did win this one.
Okay.
So that was and the Manolis are just hard in general from Germany. It's one of the first issues that actually names players on cards. So that was kind of fun. And that's one of his first issues as well. And he was a goal scorer for Bayern Munich. I think he scored more than a goal a game. So actually I sat there and looked at it and was like, which one of these did I want to bid $1,000 for? So I picked Pottinger in this case.
Well,
So
good. You guys get to share the wealth.
Yeah, share the loot.
All right. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. When through Fanatics, I mean, we can scroll real quickly through some eBay auctions I had kind of
teed up,
marked, and we can just scroll through those real quick, and if there's anything that catches your eye, just let me know. Here's a few tingles. There's an Adamir, a PSA 1 that went for 132. That feels really low. I mean, I understand there's a lot of options, or a decent amount of options pre-1950, but those are traditionally done like 300, 400 range.
Like pre-boom, those were 250.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's see. Here's another US card that went for 1,000. We talked about one last month also that went for 1,000. So feels like that's kind of right around the base amount for an American tingles. Here's a PSA 2 Aquarela for 1,700. Let's see. This is a PSA 2.5
for
78 crack for 842. So that seems like a good deal relative to the other.
And a 2.5 should mean never stuck.
Yep, in theory. Then there's a 1.5 that is an old SGC slab, or oldish SGC slab. A 1.5 sells for 230. This is a PSA 1.5 for 2,900 Maradona disc. This is a PSA 2 Palarex for 2,200. Here's a Cuijo PSA 6
What?
for 4,300.
Mm,
Um,
interesting. PSA 6. That's really high grade.
yeah, I mean it's probably overgraded. Just on a quick inspection.
Mm.
Here's one that you don't see a lot. I mean, it's out there, but the 66 crack, the Londres.
Yeah, and a 4 is hard.
Yeah, for $250, it just feels like a pretty good
Good
buy.
deal. Yeah.
I mean, this is probably the lowest I've seen. It's SGC 10-1 Cruyff, but it didn't look like it was destroyed or anything for $270 for the Sicker Verlag. Here's a PSA 2 Alifa for 10. Here's a 65 crack Golazo PSA 2.5 for 1,000. I love that card because it's just takes me to American cards,
Totally.
Here's a PSA 1 Maradona disc for 2,100. So I guess we're kind of seeing, where those are. This was just one that sold from ComC. It's been bouncing around. It's the Adventure Vanguard Dixie Dean, but it looks really wonky. We're not really sure. If I was betting, I would probably give 20-1 odds that it's real.
It does not. There's so many things that scream not real on this one.
Or there's something like it was washed. It was ironed.
Put it in somebody's pocket through the washing machine.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, it had to be something like that. Here's a PSA 2 Cuijo for 2,000. So that 6, for 4,300.
I know, it feels like a deal.
Discount if you're just looking at the grades.
Yeah. I didn't look at the stickers. I mean,
and then there was just recently this raw Alifa go for 5,000. Kind of not the best photos, and
it didn't look right. If I'm looking at that one again, like the color looked off.
Yeah, it looked wonky for sure. 28 bids, so hopefully somebody's getting that graded immediately, so they can get the refund if necessary. Yeah. And then this was the last one I wanted to share. Just it's something that it sold one bid, $2,000, 1958 costume series. A lot of people, including myself, doubt that it's a 1958 or doubt that it's legit 1958 is kind of my brain. But I mean, there is at least in this one, there's photos of other cards in the set and things like that, that kind of give it a little bit of provenance and things like that. It's just something to be careful about, but like this makes me a little more like it looks like I don't know what they're cut out of. But they're all different sizes, things like that. So it just kind of looks a little wonky to me.
And there's a program for one of the games that has the exact same photos in it.
Okay.
And I originally thought these were cut out from the program, but there would be other stuff on the reverse. So it could be the same photo used in an actual issue.
Well, and then the papers look different, and that's like another thing that's kind of like, I mean, it doesn't necessarily rule anything out, but it's just another thing that makes me kind of go,
Yeah, it's less, it's more common to see the same issues of different players using the same card stock. That's the most common default. It's not always the only thing.
Correct.
It just
so
is
at the end of the day,
threshold.
if somebody's buying this and it ends up being real, like great purchase, it's just, there's a lot of things in my brain, little bells going off and sirens, So just be careful and do your research and make, if you feel comfortable with it and you come across one of these, there's been a lot of conversation in Discord about it. And I think that, people fall on both sides of this issue, and doesn't make one right or wrong. You know what I mean? It's just whatever you're most comfortable with. So,
and like you say, if ultimately time shows that this is like absolute, we find albums and, packs, and we're convinced that this is spot on, issued in 1958, guess what? It's gonna be a great return for you. If we find out it was made in somebody's garage last week, it's gonna be a bad return for you, right? So it's just my dog's barking. I think your dog wants to talk to him.
Yeah, I think my dog hears it through my headphones.
So anyway, so that's it. But I think the market's solid, and I love seeing all these auctions this month.
Yeah, for sure. So appreciate you guys all for watching live. We'll do another one probably during the holidays. If you enjoy this, please give it a like, and all that kind of stuff. And we'll see you next time.
Join the Discord.
Yeah, that too.
See you guys.